So, someone asked me about Derek Prince the other day and whether it was okay to watch his videos. And I told him that I would prefer that he didn't, because Derek Prince, well, I didn't say exactly, I don't think, but Derek Prince has some problems with his teachings, not the least of which is that he still holds on to the false gospel of the apostate churches. He still preaches that, mixed in with his messages about the spiritual realm and demons and things of this sort, demon possession. Now, I'm not opposed to teachings on demons and demon possession, but it can go too far. And when I listen and I watch, it looks like he goes too far. Not only that, he's preaching from the English interpretations, aka translations. And so his teachings are wrong because of that. So I listened to that video a little bit more of Derek Prince's, and I want to make this addendum here regarding his teaching. The videos on that channel, of course, Derek Prince has passed on. So whoever's making these videos is responsible, not Derek Prince. But nevertheless, when you go to the channel and you listen to the videos, it's not Derek who's responsible for what you're listening to. Only the content of the words was he responsible for. But now the other problems with the videos are their responsibility, but it's still influencing you. And that is the hypnotic music that they're constantly playing over the top of his voice, so that you can't focus on what he's saying. If you run across that in a channel, run away. Any channel that claims to be Christian and is playing this music over the top of the speaker, run away. Because the way that functions, it functions to lull your mind, to turn it off so you can't focus and grab what's being said, to analyze it. It breaks your analytical mind, so you can't understand the connections between it all, and it makes it go into you, regardless what he's saying, good or bad. So that's the first thing I have of criticism for this channel and those videos. The second one is that since a lot of what Derek Prince teaches is filled with problems, you're listening to a narrative where he's making sense of these problems that he's injected into it, or that he's picked up from the apostate church as well. And he's weaving a narrative out of it, using scriptures to back it up, or to justify it, or to verify it. That's not how we preach the testimony of God. That's deceptive. That's deceptive. You're weaving together all of these false testimonies from men that are a narrative they've created, that they try to pick and choose and make the Bible look like it agrees with them. You're absorbing that narrative when you watch those videos. And I guarantee it's doing far more damage than any help it might be doing for you. Stay away from those. So one of the videos that popped up on my recommendation from YouTube is called The Secret Many Don't Practice. And it says, what does waiting for God mean? Okay? And he starts out by saying that there are two different ways that that's translated. One is waiting for God and one is waiting upon God. And he says waiting for God is in the more modern translations, waiting upon God is the older translations. But neither one of them is even remotely close to what the Greek says. Because I decided to go ahead and have a look and to see what that was underneath. And it's hupomeno. This is a very common word in the Bible, both Old and New Testaments. Hupomeno. I'm going to give you a translation of a verse from Psalms that I just finished for you all. Now in the King James, New King James, etc., all of those that are based on the Masoretic text, the Jewish text, which was made 1,000 years after Christ. That's right, it doesn't exist before then. 1,000 years after Christ, this text was made, and all of our modern translations, except for the Orthodox ones and Catholic ones, are based on this. The Protestants decided to side with the Jews who crucified Jesus. It's no joke. that rabbinical school is derived from the ones who crucified Jesus. And they're the ones who set out to literally physically burn the scrolls that existed before the ones they made in the 9th century or 900s AD. So they were on a book burning campaign long before the Nazis were. And the Protestant churches decided to side with them. Of course, they never heard of the Nazis yet. That was still to come. It was a precursor to it, though. And so in the Septuagint, which you should be reading instead for the Old Testament, Psalm 26, not 27, verse 14. This is the rooted word, Common English Edition. You must remain patiently humble under the Lord. You must yourself be acting like a man, and your heart must itself be existing in vigor. And you must remain patiently humble under the Lord. You say, I've never heard anything like that before. Yeah, that's the whole point. Is that that's what it says in the Greek. And yet you've never heard anything like that before. Why not? Why not? That's what it says in the Greek. You say it's in the Old Testament, it's supposed to be Hebrew, but you're wrong because you're saying Greek. No, I'm not wrong. Because the Greek Old Testament is, let's see, let me calculate it out, about 1,200 years older than the Hebrew Old Testament. And the Jews made it themselves. That's right. The Jews translated the Hebrew text, or whatever language it was in, Aramaic, Hebrew, we're not sure, that existed back in BC, around 250 BC. They translated into Greek because a lot of Jews were around the Greek-speaking Mediterranean growing up without Hebrew as their first language. And so they made the Old Testament into Greek with 70 scholars working on it. That's the Septuagint. LXX is the abbreviation, which is the Roman numeral for L is 50, X is 10, times 2 is 20, that's 70. So we're translating from the oldest Bible in the world. It's from the 4th century. It's a Bible that contains the text of the Septuagint from the 250 BC. But the physical Bible, the oldest physical Bible that we have in any language, is from 400 AD. And it's the Codex Vaticanus, and it's kept in the Vatican Library. And before you go crazy because you say, oh, it's the Catholic Church, the Church of the Devil, and it can't be true because it's in the Church of the Devil's library. No, the Church of the Devil's in America. The Temple of Satan, the Satanic Temple. They are literally a registered charitable organization, registered as a religious organization. The Catholic Church is not it. No matter how much you want to hate the Catholic Church for whatever bad things it has done in history, the Protestants have done far worse, especially recently. You're the biggest monster in the room now. I'm from Protestant churches too, but I'm not Catholic, I'm not Protestant. I follow Christ and I follow the Scriptures as a testimony of God. Now, back to this. So the text we're translating from is the oldest Bible in the world. And we're translating from it. I have it digitized, and I've got photographic plates of all the pages of it as well, of the actual codex, the actual manuscript. And I'm a Greek scholar, so I know what it says. This is what it says. Now, how does that differ from what it says here? Let's have a look. In the New King James, it says, "Wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord." None of that's there. None of that's there. It's all messed up. It's completely messed up. It's a different text. If you want to translate hupomeno as waiting, just simply waiting, you're watering it down so much it loses not only its impact, but its spiritual nature of waiting. That's embedded in the language. Hupomeno. Meno is to remain. That's where we get the word remain. Meno, remain. We get remain from meno, right? But hupo has this positional attitude of being under. And that's not just physically under, that's also a relational attitude of being humble. And both of those have to be in there. And when combined with meno, patience is implicit in it. And so we get, you must, it's the command form. You must remain patiently humble under the Lord. Hupo, under, humbly, patiently, remaining. You must remain patiently humble under the Lord. Not wait, because wait is ignoring hupo. Is robbing the spirituality from it. It's just focusing on the meno part of remaining, waiting, remaining. There's no spiritual nature to it anymore that's embedded in the word. That's staring you in the face with the hupomeno. Not just meno, hupomeno. And so that's why it's under the Lord. There's no preposition on the Lord or for the Lord. There's no grammatical construction that brings that out either. But there is the hupo. Then we get to you must yourself, or I'm reading from the precise English. You must you yourself be acting like a man is the verb based on the word man. And it's the imperative again, and it's the middle voice, we've talked about that before, where it means that the one who is doing the action is doing it to himself or for his own sake. You must you yourself, that's where the you yourself comes from, the middle voice of this verb. You must you yourself be acting like a man, not someone acting like a man for you or making you act like a man. That's the point of it. You must stop and grab your britches and pull yourself up. Man up. You must you yourself be acting, and it's present. It's present tense. You must you yourself be acting now like a man. But that you must remain patiently humbly under the Lord, that's aorist tense. So it has no time feature to it. It's just the action itself that's important. But this one is now happening. You must you yourself be acting like a man right now. And your heart must itself be existing in vigor now. It's present also, middle voice. Your heart is doing this. And your heart must itself be existing in vigor. Okay? Now, you read strengthen. And you read here also that he shall strengthen. It doesn't say that. Absolutely not. The heart, your heart, is the subject of this clause. It's doing the action itself. Your heart must itself be existing in vigor now. And you must remain patiently humble under the Lord. Is this a spiritual exercise? Absolutely. It's the core of the Christian walk, to be humble. For it says in Jacob, that God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble, cheerful graciousness to the humble. And we know that we're saved into this cheerful graciousness, that it is instrumental in our salvation. And yet God does not give it to you unless you are humble. Therefore, you must be humble first. You cannot be saved unless you humble yourself. You say, but then it's works. No, it's not. How is that works? That's a feature inside. That's an orientation of your heart towards God. If you're opposed to God, you think God will save you. Not until he humbles you. But every story you hear of a conversion of a person who was opposed to God at the time, just before conversion, they are humbled in some way. Every conversion story, without exception. Either you humble yourself and you are saved, or God humbles you and you respond with humility and are saved. Either way. You can still have God try to humble you through humiliation, and you react with pride and kick away, and you won't be saved. You won't be saved. It's based on your reaction to God. And either you turn your heart yourself, or you wait, and then God will do that to try to get you to turn your heart, chastising you like a son, even though you're not yet. But if you still don't turn your heart, you still won't be saved. Whether you turn your heart yourself or you turn your heart yourself in response to God trying to humble you, either way, you must do the thing yourself, as it says here. Your heart must itself be existing in vigor. And you must remain patiently humble under the Lord. Now, the context of this is where David's talking about his enemies and the threat against him from his enemies. And so in that context, now hear it. You must remain patiently humble under the Lord. You yourself be acting like a man, and your heart must itself be existing in vigor, and you must remain patiently humble under the Lord. Notice how it's sandwiched in that same phrase. Being a man and your heart having vigor itself is put in between, so you're reminded going into it and you're reminded coming out of it. You must remain patiently humble under the Lord. May the Lord bless you as you seek him with all your heart.